I never imagined that the man I had loved for more than a decade, the man I thought was my safe place in this world, was secretly planning to discard me like yesterday's news. It started with something small. His phone buzzing at midnight. Normally, he would leave his phone on the nightstand, carelessly open, but lately, it was always face down, screen locked. I didn't think much of it until one evening, when he left it charging in the living room, while he went to shower. I wish I hadn't looked. A message from a number I didn't recognize popped up. Once she signs, we'll move forward. Don't worry. You'll be free soon. My heart sank into my stomach. My hands shook as I scrolled through the thread. There were conversations about lawyers, about splitting assets, about not giving her more than what's necessary. It was like reading a stranger's words, yet they came from my husband. The man who used to write me love notes, the man who once held me as if I was his whole world. Later that night, when he fell asleep beside me, I slipped quietly into his study. The password to his computer was the same as always. Our anniversary date. That felt like another cruel joke. Inside, I found scanned legal drafts, emails with a divorce attorney, and financial statements he had carefully been compiling behind my back. He wasn't just leaving me. He was preparing to strip me of everything we had built together. I sat there in the dark, staring at the glowing screen, and I couldn't cry. The tears wouldn't come. Instead, I felt something shift inside me. Something broke, yes, but from that fracture, a sharper, stronger edge emerged. If he thought I was going to sit quietly and watch him ruin me, he didn't know me at all. That night, I didn't confront him. I kissed his cheek in the morning, made him coffee, and smiled as if nothing had changed. But deep inside, I had already started to plan. The next days were a blur of quiet calculation. While he thought he was cleverly plotting against me, I became a mirror image, careful, silent, deliberate. He worked late almost every night, claiming important meetings. That gave me the freedom to start moving in the shadows. The first thing I did was visit my bank. I opened a separate account under my name only, and slowly began transferring small amounts that wouldn't catch his attention. My salary deposits, my freelance earnings, even the small inheritance from my late father, all of it went into that account. Piece by piece, I built my fortress. Then came the property titles. The house was in both our names, but the land my parents had left me was solely mine. For years, I hadn't paid much attention to it, but now I had every document updated, notarized, and secured in a private locker. I made sure no loophole could tie it to him. Every night, I pretended to be the same wife he thought was blind. I laughed at his half-hearted jokes. I asked about his work. I even ironed his shirts. But behind the scenes, I was rewriting the ending of his carefully drafted story. I also contacted a lawyer, quietly, discreetly, a woman I trusted, someone who understood not just the law, but the language of betrayal. She helped me restructure my finances, guided me on what I legally could protect, and reminded me of one truth. Revenge doesn't always scream. Sometimes it just smiles when the other person falls into the pit they dug. And so I waited. My heart was broken, yes. Every time I looked at him. I remembered the man who once held my hand through storms, the man who had promised to grow old with me. But I refused to let my heartbreak turn me into a victim. If he wanted to play this game, I would let him believe he had already won. Until the day his cards fell apart. It happened on a Tuesday. He came home earlier than usual, carrying an envelope in his hand, a strange look on his face. He asked me to sit down. My chest tightened, but I kept my expression soft, curious. He slid the envelope across the table. "It's time we stop pretending," he said coldly. "I've filed for divorce." I opened the envelope slowly, as though I hadn't already known every step of his plan. Inside were the papers. His attempt to sever me from his life, clean and calculated. I looked up at him, and for a moment, I almost laughed at how rehearsed his stern expression seemed. He expected tears, maybe pleading. He expected me to break. Instead, I folded the papers neatly, set them on the table, and smiled. "Okay," I said softly. Confusion flickered across his face. He wasn't prepared for my calmness. You're not going to fight this. I leaned back, my hands steady. Why would I? You've already made up your mind. I just hope you're prepared for the financial side of things. That's when the storm broke. Days later, during the first legal proceedings, his confident smirk shattered. He learned that the accounts he thought were joint had already been drained of my contributions. The land he assumed he could leverage was untouchable. Even the house, which he believed he could claim dominance over, was now shielded in ways he hadn't anticipated. His lawyer looked baffled, flipping through documents. My lawyer, on the other hand, calmly presented every receipt, every record, every transfer that proved I had secured what was rightfully mine. The empire of control he thought he had collapsed in front of him, like sand slipping through his fingers. He glared at me across the table, eyes burning with rage and disbelief. You planned this, he hissed. I met his gaze steadily. No, you planned this. I just refused to let you win. For the first time in months, I felt power surge through me, not from vengeance alone, but from reclaiming myself. The divorce was finalized faster than I expected. He left bitter, angry, with far less than he had imagined. I walked away with dignity, my assets intact, and my heart bruised but not broken. People think revenge is about destroying the other person, but that wasn't it for me. My revenge was quiet, graceful. I didn't scream, I didn't beg, I didn't let him see me fall apart. I simply let him taste the emptiness of his own schemes. At night, when I finally slept alone in my bed, I realized I wasn't lonely. I was free. For too long, I had been tied to a man who valued control more than love, greed more than loyalty. He thought he was the one discarding me, but in truth, I was the one who had been set free. I still remember the look on his face that day, the shock, the disbelief, the realization that the woman he underestimated had been 10 steps ahead all along. That memory alone was sweeter than any scream, sweeter than any courtroom victory. My heart may have been broken, but from those shattered pieces, I built something unshakable. Myself. And as I closed that chapter, one thought lingered in my mind. Sometimes the sweetest revenge isn't destroying someone. It's simply thriving without them. I used to believe my marriage was unshakable. After all, I had given this man more than a decade of my life. I had built a home with him, supported him through sleepless nights when he was struggling with his career, celebrated his triumphs as if they were my own, and sacrificed parts of myself that I never admitted to anyone else. I wore my loyalty like armor, convinced that as long as I stayed true, nothing could crack the foundation of what we had. But betrayal doesn't arrive with warning signs. It doesn't knock politely before entering. It seeps into your life in whispers, in small changes that at first seem harmless. Looking back now, the signs were all there. The phone that was always face down, the sudden late nights at the office, the coolness in his touch when he brushed past me in the kitchen. I dismissed them, choosing to believe in the man I loved. The night I found out, it wasn't because I was suspicious. It was almost accidental. He had left his phone charging on the coffee table while he went upstairs for a shower. Normally, I would never touch his phone. I respected his privacy. But then it buzzed, lighting up with a message that froze me in place. Once she signs, we'll move forward. Don't worry, you'll be free soon. My blood ran cold. My hands trembled as I picked up the phone, and even though my heart screamed for me to put it down, my fingers betrayed me. I opened the thread. Message after message. My husband had been confiding in someone. About lawyers. About splitting assets fairly but not generously. About getting this over with quickly. The words blurred as tears finally filled my eyes. I felt like I had been punched in the chest. I put the phone down before he could come back, but the damage was done. I couldn't breathe. My chest was heavy with questions. How long had he been planning this? Was everything he said to me in recent months a lie? Did he smile at me in the mornings while secretly calculating how to cut me out of his life? Later that night, when he fell asleep next to me, I lay staring at the ceiling in silence. His breathing was steady, peaceful, as if nothing in his world was wrong. I turned my head toward him, and for the first time, I saw a stranger. I don't know what possessed me, but I slipped out of bed and went into his study. His computer was there. The screen dark, waiting. I typed in the password. It was still our wedding anniversary. The irony cut deeper than any knife. And then I saw it. Folders of scanned documents, email chains with a divorce attorney, spreadsheets of accounts and properties. He wasn't just leaving me. He was planning to dismantle me. I sank into his chair, staring at the glowing screen. Every email felt like another blade. My mind replayed all the sacrifices I had made for him. The years I worked overtime to help pay off his debts. The times I bit my tongue when he failed me. The love I poured into him even when he didn't deserve it. And this was how he planned to repay me. By blindsiding me. By making sure I came out of the marriage broken and penniless. But here's the thing about betrayal: once it cuts you, you either bleed out, or you harden. Something inside me hardened that night. The tears dried on my face, leaving behind not despair but resolve. If he thought I would sit quietly and let him destroy me, he didn't know me at all. I closed the files, shut off the computer, and walked back to bed. When I slid under the covers, he instinctively shifted closer, draping an arm across me as though we were still the couple we used to be. My body stiffened at his touch, but my mind was already racing. The next morning, I kissed him goodbye, made his coffee, and smiled as though nothing had changed. But inside, everything had changed. That was the day I stopped being his wife and started being my own protector. That was the day I promised myself, if he wanted a game, then I would learn to play it better than him.